You were sent for. Can you explain what that is?
One of those meetings where you walk in, you don't know if you're going to walk out.
Okay. So you walked into that room thinking, all right, this is the end. This is where I die.
Yeah, I had to walk about 30 yards to a basement apartment. When the door opened, I don't know how I didn't faint. And people said, why didn't you run? I was so much a part of their life. I said, hey, if this is it, this is it.
Why are you running?
Who are you?
What's got to do with you?
4 months ago, all right?
Until they clean up
And this
their
time
yard,
fair come.
the rats won't go
We
away.
don't know it.
Is this all hocus pocus?
Can you say, abracadabra, here's your pay?
I'm pretty fit, Abdullah. I can keep running.
Go. It's called a current affair Australia. Is that what it is?
Have a lovely day.
Hello, I'm Lizzie Pearl.
And I'm Steve Marshall.
And welcome to this episode of That's ACA.
That's ACA, stands for A Current Affair, Australia's most popular and most watched a current affairs program, hosted by Langdon, who's been busy this week.
She has been busy this
Yeah.
week, and we thought we wouldn't miss out on an opportunity to show you guys some behind the scenes of what Ali's been up to.
Yeah. Do you like mobster movies,
I
Lizzie?
love a good mobster movie, Steve.
Yeah, how about The Goodfellas? That is a beauty.
It's it's one of the classics.
Well, Ali spoke to a reformed mobster, Michael Franzese. Did I pronounce that right?
I think so.
And he
Close.
inspired the movie Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's from New York, and boy, has he got some tales to tell Ellie.
Oh, wouldn't you just love to sit down with him and ask him?
Well, Ellie did.
I know. I'm a bit jealous because I want to ask the questions. And not only has he got an insight into the New York mafia, which is, inspired movie upon movie upon movie, he also did time in jail with one of the Menendez brothers. So
Wow.
he's got some dirt to dish.
This is a ripper interview. Let's hear from Michael Franzese, interviewed by Ali Langdon.
Michael, welcome to Oz.
We made it.
You did. Hey, look, we thought we'd sort of recreate a little bit of Brooklyn for you. So what do you think?
I felt right at home when I walked in, and, dark and mysterious, just like old times.
So tell me, when you think of everything that you know and everything that you've done, how the hell have you not been whacked?
Why does always ask me that question first? There's really so much to explain, as to why. It wasn't an easy road, I can tell you that. There was a lot to navigate. A lot of things had to go right for me. And it was a struggle and a challenge. And I knew it would be, so I was prepared.
So why is it that you are allowed to talk about it? Because I know silence is sort of part of the oath that you swear when you join the mafia.
We're not only part of the oath, it is the oath. A lot of people think when we take that oath, it's an oath to lie, steal, murder. It's not. Omerta means silence. You're not even supposed to admit that the life exists. And obviously a lot of guys have broken that. But, the bottom line in all of this is, have you hurt anybody? Did you testify against anybody? Did you put people in prison? And the answer for me is no, I didn't.
Yeah. And look, you're not here to glamorize that life you once lived, more so as a cautionary tale in some ways.
Yeah, I don't glamorize the life. I want to be honest about the life. And I say this all the time. I had a lot of good friends in that life. I mean it. A lot of guys that I loved. But it's a bad life. And why is it a bad life? Because I don't know any family of any member of that life that hasn't been totally devastated, including my own. And not my wife and kids, I've been able to spare them, but mother, father, brothers and sisters, devastated. And every family of every member of that life, same thing. So any lifestyle that does that to a family, no good.
Yeah. Well, you kind of know where it ends, doesn't it? Typically, it's jail or death.
Absolutely. I mean, look, everybody that I ran with, without exception, and it's 30 years later, long time, but not that long, dead or in prison. Every single one of them.
So we have an issue here with tobacco wars, drug wars. You've got a lot of, wannabe gangsters running around with guns and a lot of innocent people caught in the crosshairs. What's your advice to them?
I don't know if it's cultural or what now, but a lot of these groups now, they don't have a lot of value on human life. You could say what you want about us, but we didn't do that. Our neighborhoods, our communities, we protected people there. We would never, in our own neighborhoods, we didn't cause any of that. And I know people say, come on, Michael. It's true. I mean, look, I'm growing up, and my dad is a major figure. He's the underboss of the family. My sisters used to walk home at 2 o'clock in the morning, and if they were seen on the street, guys would walk them home. It was that kind of an environment, and even when I was there. But today, they don't have a value. I mean, a lot of these gangbangers and a lot of these groups today, they just look at things different. They don't care who's in the street. People do get killed. They do get hurt, and it's cultural. I mean it.
What do you know much about what's happening here in Australia in regards to youth crime and gangs?
A little bit, because I keep up to date a little bit, but I mean, it's pretty much the same in the States. It's not any different. These young guys, forget it, really. But, it's just not a good situation.
Yeah. And who you run with matters, right?
Absolutely. It's what I preach to young kids all the time. Who you hang out with and who you're accountable to. I tell them, listen, when I was on the street, I was around all criminals. I was a criminal. I was indicted 7 times, arrested 18 times. That was the element I was in. I was accountable to my boss, to my oath. Criminal, paid for it. But, I tell these kids, who you hang out with is everything, and who you're accountable to. So if you get those 2 things straight, you got a good shot in life.
How do you get the message across, though, to, you want to be gangsters when they see how it's portrayed by Hollywood?
Well, that's the problem. You know how many young people I speak to in gangs? And they say, come on, Michael, I saw Goodfellas. You were in that movie, my character. And you had all the women, you had the cars, you had the money, you had all that power. And I say, yeah, but did you stop looking at the movie halfway through? You didn't watch the end. Who got killed, who went to jail, who broke up with their family. They don't see that. They only see the money, the power, and everything else. It's crazy.
You rose through the ranks of the Colombo crime family in New York City. You became a captain. What was that life really like?
Well, there's a lot of myths about that life. Nobody really understands what the life is all about because Hollywood doesn't get it right, and a lot of people that have become informants and talk about it, many of them say things to ingratiate themselves. They don't tell the whole truth the way it is. And, for me, look, I had a very idealistic view of the life. To me, I took that oath. I wanted to be the best possible mob guy I could be. And there was a lot of guys that kept the respect and honor that we were supposed to have. Of course, it's corrupted. It's the street. But, people say, it's a corrupted life. I said, give me an organization that's not corrupt. Our government can be corrupt. The Catholic Church can be corrupt. Everything needs reform.
But there's corrupt and there's corrupt.
Yes,
right.
But I can tell you this, the principle behind the life is not bad. We're honorable, we're respectful, we tell the truth to one another, we do business the right way, we're good to women and children. That's the code. Now, is it corrupted? Of course. I'm not making, light of that. Do people get killed? Yes. Is there a lot of honor among thieves? Not always. Look, I saw people die for the wrong reason. One of the horrors of that room, you make a mistake, your best friend walks you into that room, you don't walk out again. And that's horrible. And I've seen enough of that.
Did you ever pull the trigger?
Why do you ask me that? But you have to ask me that. You wouldn't be doing your job. I can only tell you this. Look, it's a violent life. You're involved in the life. You're involved in the violence. To what degree, you have to wonder about that. But
why not answer it directly? Is it a fear
I don't like
of
to
going
answer
back
it.
to jail?
Number one, I don't like to answer it. Yeah. Number two, it could be misconstrued, the wrong way. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. United States, you don't have to pull the trigger. You're part of the conspiracy. You get as much time as the guy that pulled the trigger. So, I didn't cooperate. I didn't get immunity for anything that I did in the past. I only had immunity for crimes that I agreed to when I took my plea. But other than that, no. And like I said, I didn't cooperate and get it. A lot of guys that cooperated, they have immunity. They could have killed 100 people. Doesn't matter. I'm not in that position.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I killed 100 people, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying.
I understand why you dance around it a little. That's fair.
But I will tell you this, in defense of myself. I saw that life as a business. I was fortunate. I knew how to use the life to benefit me in business. Guys like Frank Costello and guys like that who said, you know what? This could be a great thing. If you know how to use the life, it could be tremendously beneficial. Violence doesn't help. It doesn't help. It brings more heat. It causes a lot of nonsense. So for me, that wasn't the first course of action. You know, I knew how to work things out.
You were sent for. Can you explain what that is?
One of those meetings where you walk in, you don't know if you're going to walk out. I mean, it happens to almost everybody at some point in time. What I had to deal with in that life, I was one of the younger guys. And just like in the real world, there's resentment when you're doing well from the guys that have been there a lot longer than you. You know, I was with guys that were made guys for 20, 25 years. I'm a young guy making a lot of money, doing a lot of good. I had a jet plane, I had a helicopter, I had a lot of stuff going on. Well, people resent that. Here's one of the problems with mafia. You know, jealousy, sometimes it could be very normal. You know, you see a guy, oh, I wish I had that car, I wish I had that house, yeah, he's got a pretty girl, I wish I had that. That's normal. But here's the problem with sometimes with mafia, it goes on real strict. I wish I had that, and I don't want him to have it. That's when it gets tough. And there was a lot of that, I have to say that, a lot of that. Especially with somebody like me who was young and doing well.
Okay. So you walked into that room thinking, all right, this is the end. This is where I die.
Yeah, I got that feeling, and I said, this is because the setup started to look very bad for me. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had to walk about 30 yards to a basement apartment. When the door opened, I don't know how I didn't faint, quite honestly. It was rough. When people say, why didn't you run? Cut and run, you could have ran. It wasn't heroic, it was robotic.
Yeah.
I was so much a part of their life. I said, hey, if this is it, this is it. I don't want to be misconstrued that I was a hero. I may have been crazy to walk in the room, you know, probably was, but I'm here, so it worked out.
Yeah. So you were meant to be killed that day, and you weren't. But this is the bit I can't get my head around, is that your father knew it was going to happen, and he didn't try to stop it. And he's probably one of the few people who could have as the underboss in that family.
It was a defining moment in my life because my father could have done a lot more to prevent that situation. And he didn't antagonize it, he didn't cause it, but he didn't do much to stop it. And that, for me, was very hurtful, very hurtful. It made me think, if this life can separate father and son, where are we going, you know? It was very meaningful.
So he put his oath to the mob ahead of your life.
Look, I'll say this, I've said it many times, my dad's legacy in that life was more important to him than anything. That was it. He wanted to make everybody know he died with his boots on, and he did. Yeah. You could have done anything to my father. He would never cooperate, never talk to the government, but that was his legacy. That's what he wanted.
You've got sons. Could you imagine doing the same?
No. No way. No.
Did you hate him for it?
The strange thing, I love my dad. I didn't hate him at all. I just, I understood him. Yeah. I know that's crazy. My wife says, what do you mean by that? I said, you can't understand it. You know, it's a lifelong thing with me and my dad because he was a good father to me. I know he loved me, but he had this thing. It's just like I would tell him. My father did 40 years in prison. He was in and out 5 times on parole violations. His third time out, I was already a made guy. I said, Dad, you can't stay in New York. Our family is falling apart. You got to put family first. He wouldn't do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your dad got out of jail when he was 100 years old.
Yes. 100 years old.
Yeah. And you're the reason that, you know, you followed him into that life, which wasn't originally your plan. Your plan was to go to university, study medicine. Yeah. What changed?
Well, my dad got a 50-year prison sentence, and he told me that he was framed and he was innocent. And until this moment, I believe he was innocent. I know he was innocent. He was framed. And am I going to let my dad die in prison? I'm now taking care of my family. He said to me, we got to overturn my conviction. I'm going to die in here. I said, well, I'm not going to do that going to school, Dad. You know, I got to get on the street. I was always entrepreneurial, always aggressive, I could not walk around if I didn't have money in my pocket. It's just how I was. So I was born that way. So I said, I got to help you. We got to pay lawyers. We got to get to these witnesses. So he said to me, well, then, if you're going to be on the street, I want you on there the right way. And he directed me that way.
Yeah. Is it true that your dad was in a relationship with Marilyn Monroe and that upset the Kennedys and they put the FBI onto him?
My dad had a tendency to embellish things, but I believe that to be true. It all made sense. When he wouldn't tell me until after my mother passed away. He didn't want to be disrespectful. But when he told me and I put 2 and 2 together, it sounded right, yeah.
Okay.
And
So-
why not?
So what happened to JFK?
You could take this to the grave, or take it to the bank, wherever you want to take it. 100%, the mob was involved in that hit.
Yeah.
100%. Did we plan it? We had something to do with it. Our job was to get rid of Oswald, and we did it. Jack Ruby was 100% a mob associate. And one of the reasons I believe those classified documents are not going to come out because they're not telling the truth about Jack Ruby. 100% he was tied up with us. He goes back to the days of Capone in Chicago. He was working for our guys in Dallas. He got into the police department. He was able to do it, and he killed Oswald. He was going to die anyway. He had cancer. So he was set up to do that because we hated the Kennedys. Not me personally, but they hated the Kennedys because they broke a deal with us.
So it was a mob hit.
It was, I believe it was set up by the CIA or the government agency, and like they did before, they came to us several times before, they wanted our help, and we did it.
Yeah. So you were living the great life, as you said, houses all over the States, helicopter, jet plane. It all came to an end. You ended up in a jail cell. What was that like?
Being in jail?
Losing it all.
Well, it wasn't fun, I can tell you that. You know, look, to be realistic, I knew that I was going to take a fall at some point in time. I had gotten too high profile. I mean, I was arrested 18 times. I had 7 indictments.
Yeah.
They had a 14-agency task force assigned to bring me down.
Yeah.
That was their total assignment. Fact. So how long am I going to last? They're going to get you eventually. So
What
I
did they
knew
get
that.
you for?
They got me, it was a racketeering case, and it was, the underlying act was tax fraud. I defrauded the government at tax on every gallon of gasoline. A big scheme. It was the biggest scheme, I believe, since the day of Prohibition.
So of the 8 years you spent in jail, 29 months in solitary confinement. That is brutal.
Difficult, very difficult. You know, I saw a lot of guys that not do well, and I don't demean them for it, I get it. I'm totally against it for young people. It'll destroy them emotionally. But I got through it. You know, it was hard, honestly. You know.
That's where you came to know the Menendez brothers, right? And you became
Yeah.
quite close with Lyle, who
Yeah,
told you a lot about the
Yeah.
abuse at the hands of his father.
I believe it. Yeah, he was sincere when he was telling me, and he didn't tell me right away. And he got emotional at times. He wasn't putting, I got a pretty good BS meter, and he was being honest. He didn't give me the details and to the extent of everything, but I believed it to be true. And my position with them is, you know, look, they were young. It was a brutal crime. They admit to it. But 30 some odd years in prison, factor in the abuse and factor in the fact that they've become model inmates, even before they thought they had a shot to get out. So they turned their life around. So I think the correct sentence, life with the possibility of parole, and let the Bureau of Prisons and the parole board decide.
You were in the same prison as Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
Obviously, different cell, different what have you. What do you think happened to Jeffrey Epstein?
Jeffrey Epstein would have to be a magician to try to hang himself in that cell. I was in that cell. There's no way there's nothing on the ceiling. The bedpost is this high, cameras all over the place, and they patrol the tier. I was never, I don't want to be offensive, but I couldn't even go to a restroom without them walking back and forth and having me on camera. You know, there's no way he committed suicide. Now, I know the FBI, Dan Bongino, who's a friend, I like him very much, Kash Patel, they're doing a job. They're basing their decision or opinion that it was suicide based upon the former investigation. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I just can't see it.
So you reckon he was killed?
Yeah,
Why?
I believe that. I mean, look, there's no doubt there was powerful people involved with him, 100%. These people have a way of you know, covering things up. I also believe Ghislaine Maxwell, I believe they told her, hey, you saw what happened to Epstein, same could happen to you, do your time, maybe you'll get a break, keep quiet, at least you got a life afterwards.
Yeah.
Don't put that past the government, or don't put that past these people. They do things like that. A lot of people don't think, oh, come on. No, it's true. They do things like that.
How did you turn it all around? Why did you decide to get out of the mafia and this wasn't your life?
I met a young girl, and I didn't want to put her through what every other family goes through, so I had to make a choice. It was either her or the life, and I chose her. And we're married 40 years, so I think it was the right choice.
She stood by you during your time in prison.
Stood by me through 8 years, through contracts on my life, government all over me trying to get me to cooperate. She went through it all. And I tell people, I'm really not the story. I'm a mob story. She's the real story, really.
See, there you go. Love conquers all in the end, doesn't it?
Yes.
Wow. Wow, right?
Yeah.
That was incredible.
That was good. That was good. And, you know, this is the place where you can come and catch up on all of the stuff that you might have missed out on,
That's right.
on seeing on A Current Affair every night.
Yeah, catch up with us on our socials.
On our socials,
Yeah.
9 Now, the Current Affair website, YouTube as well. So anything you
And-
might have missed during the week on or on our Saturday night program is always there.
Yeah.
Anytime for anyone to catch up on.
And you can email in as well, aca@9.com.au, I believe.
Correct.
All right. Take care, Lizzie. We'll see you back here next week.
See you soon.